What's up, guys? Welcome to Wide World Friends English, and today we're going to talk about the problem with English.
Yeah, it's got a lot of them, but specifically we're going to talk today about natural English pronunciation.
Yes, so you've probably heard that term a lot, and even we use it. But the problem is English is a living language that is eaten or taken from 350, roughly, other languages. So 80% of English comes from other languages, which means our spelling system is jacked up. There's a lot of English accents all over the world. So what we have is a mess of a language in terms of pronunciation. So if you are trying to learn how to pronounce English in a natural English accent, good luck.
It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
And so, like she said, English is a mixture. And so as a result of that, you get a lot of different people that speak very differently, even in English. So our background is that we grew up and live in southern United States. So that means that our accent is probably close to that area. So we're going to sound a little bit different from a person in Australia or a person in England. But even me just saying those things, like a person in Australia or a person in England, that's painting the picture too broadly.
Way too broadly. And we'll get into that in future videos. There's a lot to be said in that realm, but I really want to hone in on the specific problem with English and natural English, if you will. When you pick up an American English dictionary, or British English dictionary, Australian English dictionary, whatever, they are going to give you some IPA pronunciation suggestions. IPA is the International Phonetic Alphabet. It is far more accurate than our own English alphabet. Just a pro tip for you, learn it. But that phonetic pronunciation beside the word entry in the dictionary is still going to be somewhat wrong. Not entirely, it's just that each speaker, individually, and families and accents and areas, each of us say words differently depending on the context.
The context of where the speaker is in largely determines how exactly it's pronounced. So it may not be proper to say a phrase like, I don't know, or what you doing, but in some context, that's actually more proper to say it that way than to say it the proper way.
Yeah. I think one of the ones that is really common for us to use on a day-to-day basis is I might say, how was your day to my son? Because I want him to speak very openly and clearly. I want him to hear me speak clearly so that his pronunciation is accurate. So I would say, how was your day, James? But to my brother, I might say, how was your day? How's your day? Because if I said, how is your day, brother? He would look at me like, why'd you say it that way? So it would be like, that was rather proper of you, Amber. But it's not that it's wrong or incorrect. It's just not laid back and easygoing like our conversations tend to be.
Right. And so in that way, the right translation or the right pronunciation is a contextualized one.
Yes.
So for her brother, she should say, you're, not your. But when you're talking in a different context, you want to use something different. So how do we do this, though? Then if there's all these contexts, how can we even possibly begin?
You've got to hear it. Right? You've got to do lots and lots and lots of listening to natural speakers and how they speak. The challenge with this is knowing which speakers come from the same area. Because if you listen to an American speaker in the morning, but you listen to a British speaker in the evening, you're going to get two different pronunciations, spelling rules, grammar. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to choose one region, one accent to really focus on. If you are trying to get a solid English accent and try to learn English well enough that you're fluent, you need to choose one area because part of fluency is knowing how to pronounce things in different contexts.
Right.
So we should give an example.
Yeah. So let's use the phrase, I don't know, but let's use it in different contexts.
Okay.
So let's do maybe like a scary context. So if I said, where's the money?
Be like, I don't know. I would probably say, I don't know. Because I'm fast and anxious and I don't know.
Blood's pumping and adrenaline. Yeah. Okay.
So what if I said to you, like, where did it go? What did you do with it? What did you do?
I don't know. I'd be very confused and because I don't know what we're talking about. So I would be very slow.
Emphasize.
I'd be emphasizing, but
yeah.
I would be thoughtful with what I was saying. So for me personally, I would want to slow down. Like if a person's really trying to get some information out of me, I would try to slow down and make sure my words are right because I want the content to be right.
Right. Well, especially if you're annoyed, right?
Mm.
Like if somebody just keeps saying, like our son will do this all the time, he'll ask lots of questions. And he'll just say, why is the sky blue? 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 Will you tell me?
I don't know.
But sometimes too, you look at him like if you are exasperated, maybe you'll say, I don't know. But at the same time, if you're looking at him in the eye, you might say, hey, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't
Again,
lose
you're trying
the
to
T.
get that point across, but to also try to make sure that he knows that I don't know.
Right, right. And sometimes you just have to make them look at you in the face and make eye contact with you and make sure that they heard it. And he'll repeat it and then go on, and 10 minutes later he'll probably ask the same question.
What about tired? If
I'm
at
tired,
the very end of the day and I say, where did you put the cat food?
I don't know. So when we're tired, especially, we drop our T's and we shove our words together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I will make I clear because I'm emphasizing I. That's where the stress is placed in the sentence. But that's what's happening in all of these examples is we're messing with the stress and a little bit of the inflection. We're messing with the inflection as well. It's not that we're changing the words, but yes, we're changing the speed, we're changing the inflection, we're changing the stress, and we're changing the space between words.
Yeah.
So whatever is emphasized is going to have a space clearly differentiated from the rest of the sentence, even if the rest of the sentence is just a bunch of what do you know, like sounds shoved together. But you're also going to have a whole lot of just very clear I don't know. But you can also say, I don't know. Like if you're being defensive, you can say, I don't know. But you can also say, I don't know. I don't know. Notice how the stress has changed in all three cases there, whether it's on I or don't or no. The word that carries the most meaning is going to be most clearly pronounced.
The reason why this is so important is because of a lot of ESL learners, they just don't know how to do this naturally. So that natural English accent is actually a mixture of all these feelings and all these intonation, and it can change a lot. This is what kind of going back to our paralanguage video, where you have to really try to study natural speakers as they speak, because we've seen many examples of people that have honestly, they have mixed up language.
They have a global English, maybe?
Yeah, maybe, but it's also kind of confusing at times because at times they sound British, times they sound American. They sound different, and so honestly, as a listener, I can get really confused because I'm like, am I tuning my ears to British English? Am I tuning my ears to Australian English?
Right.
What is happening? And I get confused.
Or the vocabulary they choose as well, too, because there's different vocabulary. Like, believe it or not, there's a lot of things British English speakers say that I have no idea what they mean. It's the same with Singapore English or Indian English, any English. There's a lot of word differences between the various regions of English. So you also have to be aware of that. So if you want to be the most efficient and effective in learning English or picking up a natural English pronunciation, you need to choose one region. Make that your English island. We've talked about making an English island here before for natural English acquisition. You've got to choose one. It's not that you can't eventually get to others, but if you want to be efficient, you don't need to confuse. Just like you don't want to confuse your kid by speaking 3 or 4 different languages in their various dialects at home.
Right. So think of it like as an experiment. So when you have an experiment, you try to make it a controlled experiment where you don't really change every other thing. But if you are taking from a lot of different accents, but you're also trying to learn the language, then what you're doing is you're changing too many variables at the same time. So you can listen to different speakers. We encourage that, but what we would definitely encourage is to not listen to multiple accents at the same time, because you can get really confused. Don't listen to different accents. Try to zero in on one for now. Learn that accent and that English, and then you can kind of expand to the others.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to say don't explore.
Yeah,
there is a time for that. But if you're thinking about efficiency, you definitely want to hone in on one.
And even for you guys and this YouTube channel, what we do is we try to slow things down just a little bit. That's an example of how our English, even our English, I just did it just then, can change depending on the context. So if we're talking to you, we don't expect you to be baby beginner English students. We expect you to be intermediate students. And so we do still try to slow down a little bit. But if we were talking to our American students or Americans, it would be much faster, and we would drop some pronunciation that maybe isn't as important. Just a little bit.
There will be no block in communication. Specifically with I don't know, I would say I don't know to you guys, but I would also say I don't know. I would still have like a mini pause or a very, very soft T for my American students. So just know that we're not speaking like too many notches too slow. We're pretty close to how we would normally teach in an American class. But we do emphasize things a lot more clearly because one, we're on video. You lose a lot of paralanguage in video, so our voice needs to make up for the problems, discrepancies, if you will. But there's also a lot of us just trying to give you as natural as we can for American English so that you can listen well and have good natural English to listen to. As far as accent, I don't think we sound super Southern right now, except for our hard R. We do have a hard R. We'll talk about that in a different video. But Southern English tends to have a hard R sound.
Yeah. So we tend to say car, and we like to have that R sound in there as opposed to caw.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we haven't lost that in how we've standardized our English for teaching. We have not lost that because we find it's very clear for students to pronounce our R's efficiently.
So the takeaway for you guys for acquiring natural English pronunciation is find one accent, zero in on it, observe, listen, intake a lot from that, and be able to note some things, note the context that you find that pronunciation.
Yeah, and if you need to, as you're watching a video on YouTube or a movie or TV show, if you hear an interesting pronunciation that just kind of stands out to you, note it. Stop, replay it, listen again, imitate it exactly how they said it for that context that you see in that video, and then play it through again. Make sure that you've heard it, but you've also practiced imitating it. So that will help you bring it up the next time it comes around.
Absolutely.
All right. That's it, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.